My name is Carl Anthony, and I work in the automotive industry in Detroit. Sometimes that work encompasses future vehicle technology, and that's what we talk about here, for the most part anyway. This is AutoVision News Radio. Website development, graphic design, social media, and copywriting. We know these things are important for every company to have, but what is the best strategy? And how do you go about it? To give us some insight, we turn to Katelyn Magney, founder and president of Magney Creative, a one-woman show providing smart marketing for small businesses. Magney Creative specializes in high-quality, flexible marketing services, particularly for smaller organizations that don't have the need or the budget for an ad agency. Magney Creative provides consulting in all areas of marketing, PR, and design, and serves all types of businesses, including tech companies and boutique fitness studios. In the automotive industry, Katelyn is a familiar face, especially for those of us working in ADAS and autonomy. She's also the marketing and communications director for VSI Labs. The Twin Cities-based company provides technical insight and applied research on the hardware, software, and connectivity systems that support advanced safety and next-generation automated driving systems. Here to help us get our minds around marketing and communications, Katelyn Magney joins us on AutoVision News Radio. Katelyn, welcome to the program today.
Thank you so much for having me, Carl. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so Katelyn, we have worked together for, I don't even know how many years, for a long time. And you have just been instrumental in the growth of VSI Labs. And in particular, things like the Automated Drive series and Destination ACM more recently. So can you give us a perspective on what it took to organize and promote those events?
Yeah, certainly. So I have been helping VSI for several years in different capacities, but I would say leading up to the past couple of years, we've really worked on growing our following on social media and email through things like content marketing and events. So both of those platforms, now that we really have solid audiences, were instrumental in promoting both of those, the Drive series and Destination ACM. And of course, we worked with a number of partner companies, a lot of VSI sponsors, ACM as well. Spreading the word and marketing in general is a lot easier when multiple companies are involved and we can reach additional audiences beyond just our own. So that's certainly helpful. And, I think timing has been important as well. Considering the pandemic, the Drive series and Destination ACM were sort of both in response to that. I guess I would give credit more to Phil, the founder and president of VSI, acting on an opportunity during the pandemic when we couldn't really have conferences like we were used to. So I certainly can't take credit for that, but the timing really worked out there.
Of course. With these Automated Drive series and Destination ACM, Phil Magney, president and founder of VSI Labs, he's said it's all about the data. And that's exactly what these programs were. They were all about gathering the data. So Katelyn, with that data in mind and keeping with the ADAS theme now, so what are some of the trends that you see happening when it comes to automotive safety or automotive design or just ADAS and automotive in general? What's your perspective on some of the trends we're seeing right now?
I have to start with the fact that I just last year got a vehicle with a backup camera. I've never had one before. And right. I can't even tell you how cutting edge that feels to me.
It is.
But yeah, I can't say I'm the best person on the VSI team to answer this. I would certainly say, I think when I first joined VSI, much of the focus was like, when are we going to see level 5 automated driving on the cars? Is that going to happen in 10 years? Right. And I think the messaging has really shifted to honing in on ADAS and really fine tuning those safety features for drivers today. I don't know that we'll see fully automated driving anytime soon because it requires so much more than just the technology.
I love the work that you've done with VSI Labs for both Automoblog and AutoVision News. We have covered the Automated Drive series when that kicked off, but there is more to your world now today than VSI Labs, although that's an important part of what you do. You also are the founder of Magney Creative, and this is what I really want to pick your brain on today. Tell us a little bit about Magney Creative and what are your areas of focus and what services do you provide? Tell us a little bit about all of that, Katelyn.
Sure. I'll give you a little bit of background because I sort of happened into it. I started doing freelance marketing work right out of college, and I really got lucky with some friends and some family friends who trusted me as a young grad to help them with their marketing. It was so much fun for me, and each client brings such a unique challenge, and I built some great relationships right off the bat. As I got more into that, I started noticing that a lot of small businesses are either paying, exorbitant amounts of money for help from an ad agency and getting sort of one size fits all solutions, or they were trying to bootstrap things together themselves. And there's certainly a time and place for both of those things, but I felt like I could provide like a real hybrid solution, something that wasn't prohibitively expensive for, like a fellow one woman business to invest in, but that would offer real quality work. I wanted to provide flexibility. I wanted to help businesses, who needed a full brand overhaul, but also ones that needed like ad hoc design for social media or, print collateral or something like that. And I wanted to be available to my clients. I didn't want them to feel like they were being passed around or I was playing telephone with a bunch of people on my team. So really all of those things came together. And during the pandemic, I think it was, I switched to really focusing on Magney Creative. VSI Labs became one of my clients, of course, one of my biggest clients. But now I help healthcare providers, fitness studios, dentists, chiropractors, you name it. So I love the variety of work that I get to do. I wouldn't say I have an area of focus because I sort of pride myself on being a generalist and being able to help somebody with PR or graphic design or website development, for example. So
Which you're very good at, by the way. you are very good at all of those things. And so what advice do you have for us? What are some best practices that those of us in automotive can do to have a successful marketing and communications platform?
Absolutely. I could talk for a really long time on this. One thing that's really important is a clear brand. I preach the importance of branding and brand consistency all the time, especially for a new company that's just a startup or something that's just getting off the ground. And it's not just the visuals. I'm not just talking about a logo or a color scheme or even, a font, but I also mean in the voice and the tone and the overall messaging. I think brand consistency goes a really long way. And another thing I think that's important is flexibility. There's so much changing in the automotive market and in marketing in general. And companies, I think, have to be flexible to adapt to these changes. Another marketing component I'd say that's been really helpful in my work with VSI is content marketing. Everyone working at these companies, particularly like engineers, analysts, they are so smart. They have this wealth of knowledge and subject matter expertise, and building credibility and sharing some of that thought leadership through content marketing, whether that's a webinar or a podcast, can really go a long way.
Katelyn, let's talk now about social media. Social media management and consulting, that's a part of Magney Creative, and you specialize in that. So what are some ways, Katelyn, that you help your clients maximize their presence on social media so that they don't have to worry about it?
Just to start, consistency, I think, is really important. And one of the biggest things that I talk about with clients, a lot of companies, particularly without dedicated in-house marketing efforts, might start social media platforms with good intentions, but as things get busy, those might fall to the wayside. A company's LinkedIn page that hasn't been updated in 10 months just doesn't look good.
Right.
So consistency is super key, whether you don't have to be posting every day. I would say quality over quantity, but, remember consistency. And then another, really foundational element to social is understanding where your audience is. Some of my clients, particularly those that are like consumer facing, are going to be much more active on Facebook and Instagram and get much more engagement there. But that's less the case, say, for VSI. And in VSI's case, most of our audience is more on LinkedIn and Twitter. So the platforms and understanding where your audience is, of course, are really important. And knowing sort of the intricacies of each platform and not necessarily copying and pasting a post from one platform to the next. Thinking about what makes the most sense for each platform is also important to keep in mind.
Along with the social media, you also incorporate graphic design, Katelyn. And just personally, I'm a huge fan of graphic design. We use it all the time for Automoblog and for AutoVision News. You have a unique and specific approach to graphic design at Magney Creative. So tell us a little bit about that approach, and then ultimately, why is it important for your clients to have good graphic design assets?
Yeah, I feel like I almost have to give a caveat of I'm not even classically just, trained in graphic design, which makes me laugh. I taught myself Adobe Creative Cloud over my spring break of senior year of college when I realized the job I had accepted would require quite a bit of design. So that's kind of a funny memory to look back on. But, I've learned a lot since then. And from my perspective, good and clean design goes so far when it comes to how your brand is coming off as a first impression. And it really, I think, helps solidify your image and helps to start cultivating that brand awareness and recognition.
Well, Katelyn, you have done some work for AutoVision News, the redesign of the new website, which is now live. And it looks absolutely fantastic. So one, Katelyn, I got to compliment you. Again, you and I have worked together before during VSI Labs when I was writing about the first, destination ACM and the first automated drive series. So I've worked with you, as a media relations person and as a marketing person. Now I have the opportunity to work with you with Magney Creative as a graphic designer, as a web developer. So the work that you do has been incredible. But I want to go back to something that you said before, where you're a one-woman show. You are there and you are available. So every time I've emailed you for something about AutoVision News, graphic design, or a question, you're always there to get back to me. And I love that approach to Magney Creative.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Carl. It's something that's really important to me. I think we've all been frustrated working with service providers who, we can't get answers from. And being available to my clients, within reason is really important to me. So I appreciate that.
Katelyn, let's shift gears for a second here. Now the tables have turned and you've got your own talk show. You've got your own podcast or radio show or late night talk show. Let's do a late night talk show. Let's call it Magney at Midnight because we'll get the alliteration thing going with the M's, right? If you had a show, Magney at Midnight, who would you invite on as your first guest and why?
First of all, I love an alliteration. So I love the title. Second of all, I am an old lady who goes to bed before midnight. So that is not in the cards for me.
Right.
But if we are speaking in hypotheticals, I would obviously invite you, Carl, as my first guest.
Oh, that's kind of you. That's kind of you.
If you turned me down, I would have to say, if I could get Tina Fey and Amy Poehler together, let's go with that. You can come too, Carl. We'll actually have 3 of you on for the first show.
So if Tina Fey and Amy Poehler are fans of AutoVision News Radio and they read AutoVision News, please contact myself or Katelyn, and we will set this up. You mentioned the going to bed early thing.
I don't know when it happened. I don't know how it happened. Really, the pandemic has made me value sleep more.
I think so too. Katelyn, going forward for Magney Creative, where do you see yourself in maybe 5 or 10 years? What are some of the long-term goals that you have as a business owner?
That's a great question. I've been in business for, I would say, about 1.5 years now, and I'm starting to realize that I can only do as much work as I personally can do. So I'm looking at, or maybe just exploring at this point, options of maybe expanding my team, growing a little bit, but we'll see. I would love to continue doing what I'm doing and continue providing these services for small businesses at an affordable rate. So I'm hoping to be doing the same thing, perhaps with a little more help though.
And indeed, Katelyn, you are the best at what you do, hands down. So I want to thank you for being a part of the podcast today and for all of your support and work that you've done to get the new AutoVision News launch, the redesign done. So from all of us here at AutoVision News, we want to thank you and wish you the best of luck going forward.
Yeah, thank you, Carl. This is my first ever podcast appearance, so I'm honored that you invited me on, and so fun to do this.
And that works because this is the first podcast I've ever hosted. So it's we're learning to we'll practice for when we have Tina Fey and Amy Fuller. Then we'll be, professionals.
Exactly. Okay, perfect. Well, we'll look back on this and laugh in a few years, I suppose.
To learn more about Katelyn's services and expertise, visit MagneyCreative.com. That's MagneyCreative.com. For information on VSI Labs, visit VSI-Labs.com. That's VSI-Labs.com. You can also talk with Katelyn directly via email, info@MagneyCreative.com. That's info@MagneyCreative.com. In Detroit with Katelyn Magney, I'm Carl Anthony, AutoVision News Radio.